Okay, well, while we wait for others to join along, and I'll keep admitting people as they come, I just want to say thanks to everyone for coming tonight. I want to welcome you, let you know that my name is Deb Turcott, for those of you who don't know me. I am the principal at Oriana Solutions. You should see my screen right now, and we'll be going over some housekeeping things in a few minutes and then getting into the heart of the session. But first of all, on behalf of all of the speakers from the Women Not Working series, just want to say thank you for making the time to invest in yourself. We are all collectively and individually really excited to be part of your journey. And we are looking forward to spending the next few months with all of you. Kind of lists that you make for things to accomplish. So if you're like me, you're going to draw this little empty box to the left side of the item on the list, and you're going to try to accomplish all of the things on that list. What I want to tell you is it's not that kind of a list. So this is not a accomplish everything list. In fact, instead, it's a list of opportunities. So it's a list of things, ideas that can help you manage the moment. When we go through the rest of the session tonight, we'll get into describing the other parts of the series that will come later on and talk a little bit more about the speakers that you'll get to hear from. But for this particular segment and the next two segments, we're focused completely on managing the moment. And what that means is when things are happening in our career or our professional journey, and we're trying to manage all of those pieces, sometimes we forget to manage the moment for ourselves. And so we want to help give you some quick hitting techniques and tactics in the first three sessions to help you seize control and take deliberate steps and actions that make you feel like you have progress and that you're moving forward in your career path and the professional path that you're hoping for. So again, this is all about part of managing the moment, and we're going to give you this top 10 list so that you can pick something from it, and maybe one resonates more than another, but there's by no intention do we want you to try to do all of them. We're not trying to add to your list right now. And so first on the list is Women, Wine, and Wednesdays. And I'm not much of a wine drinker, but you might be a wine drinker. But the reason that I put this forth, and I call it Women, Wine, and Wednesdays, is because if you attend all of these sessions with us, what you are doing is you are creating a habit for yourself. Every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern for the foreseeable future, you're joining with another group of women who are experiencing maybe not exactly the same journey, but wanting to get the same things out of this journey. And you've created a discipline of investing in yourself every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern. And so whether it's a group of women and some wine that you choose to spend some time with, or maybe you pick something else, one of the suggestions in our top 10 list for managing the moment is don't let go of this discipline. Find a way to invest in yourself continually and keep this habit going that you've already committed to as you've signed up for these first 10 sessions. The next in this top 10 list of managing the moment is to find a way to be active. And I know this doesn't feel like it affects your professional career or your path, but I want to tell you it absolutely will. When we're active, our body releases endorphins. We feel better about ourselves. When we feel better about ourselves, we put our best foot forward in any scenario, but that includes professionally. Oftentimes we segment our professional life and we create this little box for ourselves. And we don't understand that there's a lot of elements to who we are as human beings that influence how successful we are as a professional. And so in this photo, you can see a woman who's walking or potentially running with her dog. I can't quite tell, but for you, it may be that you have a pet that you can exercise with. Perhaps you can create an obstacle course with your children. Maybe you have one of those mirror things on the wall where you get to look into it and exercise with a bunch of other people around the globe. Not for me, creeps me out a little bit, I'll be completely honest. But whatever it is that you can choose to do to be active, it will help you feel better about yourself and you can commit to that type of exercise. For me, I live on a ranch, and so we have horses and donkeys, and so every day I get to be active by virtue of that. But for you, it's going to be whatever makes you feel comfortable and whatever you're physically capable of doing. One of the best things about this is it can be entirely free. And just like the number 10 on our list, number 9 on our list doesn't have to cost you any money, but it will help you manage the moment and seize control and take deliberate actions in your right now, irrelevant of the circumstances that you're facing. And so the next item on our top 10 list is to get a coach. This does typically cost money. There are all kinds of coaches out there. You have leadership coaches, professional coaches, mentors, life coaches, you name it, the list goes on and on. But the reason I suggest this is not because it's something that I offer as part of our business or several of our speakers offer in their businesses, is because it is a great way to build a partnership with another professional who is there entirely to serve you. And so working with a professional coach or a leadership coach or a career coach means you have an accountability partner in the work that you're doing, in the goals that you are setting. And if you don't know how to set the goals for yourself, a coach will help you do that. And so having a coach means that you've got this partner in the full journey that you are taking in advancing your career. They can help you seek out the type of role that you're looking for. They can help you work through your professional brand. They can help you maybe reach some of those places where you don't have as much self-awareness that might be holding you back. Or if you don't know how to find your passion that connects to a purpose in a career, they can help you with that as well. And so number 8 on our list is to find a coach. This is probably one of my favorite options. Number 7 on our top 10 list is to join a board or volunteer. And so while this might seem elementary, and some of these items on our top 10 list are certainly not rocket science, what they are ways that we don't always understand all of the ways that they might help us. If you volunteer for an organization, sure, you're doing something great for that organization. But at the same time, you might not recognize the fact that because you're volunteering in a place that you care about, you're automatically connected to a group of people that you have commonality with. So it does fight some of the feelings of isolation if we're in a career transition place. And when you're working and joining a board, that is amplified because you now have a professional network that has enhanced your own current network by all the people that you serve alongside on that board. Another great value of joining a board is that you can often learn something about another type of business. So let's say you're a paralegal or you've worked in the legal environment for a long time. If you join a board and there are committees for that board, you can actually join a different type of committee. You might get on the fundraising committee, or maybe it's the marketing committee or the event planning committee, whatever it might be. But you might be able to not only hone other skills that you have, but complement those skills with a new area by joining a board. The reason I put the $ on this particular slide is because I want everyone to recognize that sometimes a board has a give or get function. And what that means is to be on a board of a nonprofit, you might actually have to donate some funds. So I do want to make people aware of that. Or the get version of that is that you might have to help raise funds along the way. And so joining a board may not come at no cost besides your time. It may have some cost associated with it. But again, you're finding people that you have common interests with. You're enhancing and building your professional network. You might be learning new skills, and you're doing great, something great for an organization that you care about. So I highly recommend joining a board. And if you don't know how to find those types of opportunities, you can put it in the chat, or later on you can ask that question. Or you can send me an email at connect@orianasolutions.net, and I can help you find some of the places that you can look for board opportunities. Okay, so this is a time when I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and we're going to move almost entirely to just seeing me, because I want to show you the books that I want to recommend to you. So this is a book, well, let me start by saying this. Reading is the number 6 on this top 10 list. And if you're like me, you don't read for pleasure. I don't have time to read for pleasure. If you read for pleasure, I want to tell you right now, I admire you, because it's something I have never been able to do. It's a discipline or a habit I haven't been able to create for myself. But I feel like it's going to be productive for my career, then I will like dive in with both feet. So I'm going to recommend some books to you, and I'm going to tell you why and why I think they might be useful for you. And one book may resonate more than another. And Mercedes is going to share links to these books through the chat feature so that you have the opportunity to find them. And I believe she's going to do it through Goodreads. We always encourage you to support your local bookstore if you can. But if you don't want to spend any money, of course, check out your local library so you can find these books as well. So the first that I'm going to show you is called Let Your Life Speak by Parker Palmer. This particular book is small, as you can see, but the old cliche is don't judge a book by its cover, and I want to encourage you, do not judge this book by its cover. It is tiny, but it is mighty. And so in this book, Parker Palmer helps you listen for the voice of vocation. So if you're one of those people who's exploring what your next career might look like, or trying to find a purpose or a passion, he will take you through a deep journey that he went through and help you determine how you can find that purpose or that passion. It was a book that was very meaningful to me at a point in my career about 10 years ago, where I was admittedly feeling a little tired of being an executive and trying to figure out if I wanted to stay in that place or do something different. It's a great book. He also uses the function of the Quaker question circle. And so if you do read this book, you'll find that to be an interesting way to learn more about yourself or others in the art of asking questions. So the second book that I want to recommend to you is called The Leader's Edge by Susan Hodgkinson. And this is a little bit more of a workshop or a workbook oriented book. It is a reading book, but they will give you exercises throughout. And this is a book that will help you enhance your brand. And so what Susan does throughout this book is she helps you think about how you can take your brand and you can make it into something that amplifies your career and amplifies the business that you work for or that you own. And so I recommend this as a journey if you're thinking of not necessarily sure what your professional brand is or how it's articulated to other people. She can take you through exercises that will help you. And for some of you, that's a really powerful part of your journey right now. Ellen Kilbert later in our series will talk to you about packaging your professional brand, but this book might be a great read in advance of that session. The next book that I want to share with you is called The Purpose Economy. And if you think about how the United States has progressed over history, we've had this journey where we were an agrarian economy and then a manufacturing economy, then we've moved more into a technology-based economy. And Aaron Hurst in this book contends that the next economy will be one based on purpose. And so in this book, what he does is he starts to talk about how the corporate world and how the business world is looking at purpose and connecting to purpose. We sometimes think of that as a mission or corporate social responsibility, but if you're wanting to stay highly connected to contemporary workforce, this is a book that can help you think through some of the journeys that businesses are taking right now to better understand their own purpose and how that will work for them moving forward as they connect to their customers. The next book that I want to recommend to you is What You Really Need to Lead. And in this particular book, it's one of my favorite books on leadership, and it's by Kaplan. And in it, he talks about acting and owning like a leader. And so the reason I share this with you during managing the moment as opposed to during my leadership session at the end of our series is because for this particular book, I find that it's timely for you. If you're thinking of ways that you can make deliberate decisions and take direct steps towards the future that you want, acting and behaving like an owner as a leader will help you in that journey. But this is a book that also has some exercise in it. It's a little bit of a quicker read than some of the other ones that I've suggested to you, but highly impactful for this portion of your journey. We're almost done on the books, I promise. This one is going to strike some of you as odd. It's Texas women in World War II. I don't know if any of you are from Texas, so this may or may not feel relevant to you, but the reason that I share it is it's actually personal for me. My great aunt served in World War II. She served in the Korean War, and she ended up retiring as a colonel in the Army, and one of the first female colonels in the Army. And so for me, she's inspiring. So the reason that I share this book with you is that many of us have looked at 2020 with like total disdain, right? We've seen it on social media. We complain about the way things are going, and we struggle with what's happened in this year, pandemic, career-wise, with our families, politically, whatever it might be. And so if you've ever read a book like Sapiens, where it takes you through this journey and it teaches you that in history, mankind has faced all kinds of challenges. What I find about this particular book, Texas Women in World War II, is that we've been there before. And if you think about all the books written about World War II, The Greatest Generation, and all of the focus on military strategy, very few of those books ever highlight the women. And so if you just need to feel inspired by something another woman has done, these are quick anecdotes about a series of women who served. I highly recommend it. And then our last book, before we jump back into the rest of our top 10 list, is called Confident Pluralism by John Anazu. And this is one that really impacts your leadership journey. And the reason I say that is because we've seen over and over again about the divisiveness. We've seen concerns about how divided we may be at times as people. We've seen sometimes maybe the nastier side of people as they've come after people who don't think like them. And in this book, Confident Pluralism, John Anazu talks about the promise and the purpose and the need for productive discourse. And so it is definitely a demand that is happening for leaders as we move forward, is how do we support others in their journey and create a safe place for people to disagree without being disagreeable. And so this is a contemporary book for those of you who are leaders or aspiring leaders as you think about how to create that safe space. Okay, I'm going to take a deep breath while we go back to sharing the screen and just take a look at Mercedes. To see if we've got, all right, excellent. We'll go back to the screen share. Okay, excellent. So the next one on our top 10 list is to learn a new skill. And this may feel like it's outside of the purview of professional skills, although sometimes a new skill can help you with your profession, like learning a new language, because that's something that you could add to your resume. But I'm actually recommending, if you need something deliberate that you can take action on, that you find a skill that maybe doesn't actually work towards your career, but helps balance you as a human. And here's an example. A couple of years ago, I was in this trying circumstance. I was the top dog at the organization, so it's not like I was unhappy with someone else, but I was facing some challenges that I needed to navigate. And so instead of becoming negative about the situation, what I decided to do was I took a welding class. It has nothing to do with being an executive, but I learned how to weld. And I did that. I promise you I'm not going to build any bridges anytime in the near future, but I do make some funky yard art. So it has, paid some dividends for me personally. But the reason I did that was to really invest in myself, find a new way to use a different part of my brain, to think differently about myself, and to just complement who I am as a human being. So this can cost money if you decide to go out and take a class somewhere, but it doesn't have to. You can use YouTube to learn almost anything on the planet. And so you might want to do a cooking show, or perhaps you want to learn how to crochet, things that might not cost as much money as going out and taking a formal class. Not sure I'd recommend learning how to weld on YouTube, although I've seen people do it. and safely do it. But there are so many things that you can learn how to do via the internet or on YouTube. And it's a great way to manage the moment, take control of the moment, and learn something new that balances you as a human being. When we're balanced as a human, we can be a better professional, we can be a better wife, a better mother, a better partner, a better daughter, a better friend. But all of those elements of learning new things will help us invest in ourselves. And that's really the goal of this top 10 list, is to give you productive and constructive ways to do that. So learning a new skill is number 5 on our list. Join a professional women's organization. So this is another one similar to joining a board that can be really powerful for you. I know we've got some veterinarians who have joined us tonight, and so many of you are already members of the Association of Veterinary Medical Association, well, you know what I'm saying. I'm not going to remember the AVMA, but you also might be a member of the Association of Shelter Veterinarians. But for whatever your purpose is and your journey is in your career, there's probably a professional women's organization for you. And so the reason I suggest joining these is sometimes they do charge dues or a membership fee to belong, but it's because you automatically create a network for yourself. It adds to your resume, it builds on your resume, you can put it on your LinkedIn page, it creates a new network of people that you can engage with. And most of these professional organizations offer you other types of resources. So you might be part of this webinar series, but maybe you want access to other resources as well. And those professional women's organizations can help you do that. And if you want a list of some of the coolest ones that are out there, just shoot me an email at connect@orianasolutions.net, and I'm happy to share a list of some potential professional organizations with you. But this is one where you feel great, you learn some new things, you have access to resources, you expand your network, and you can add to your resume all by doing one thing. So this might be one of the things on the top of your list. Number 3, mentor another woman or another professional for that matter. And this is definitely one of the top 10 lists that doesn't have to cost you any money. And I know most of you might be scratching your head and thinking, all right, maybe I don't have time, or, well, I'm coming to be mentored. Let me tell you why I think mentoring another professional is so valuable right now. The first thing is, when you think about mentoring another professional, you actually have to go through the exercise of saying, well, what could I mentor someone in? And when you start drafting that list, you immediately remind yourself of your value. You remind yourself of the skills that you have, the great experience that you have, the competencies that you have, and those become really useful in helping you manage the moment. Because if you're in a circumstance or part of your professional journey that didn't happen the way you planned or the way that you wanted to, sometimes we forget our value in those moments. And so this is an automatic way to remind you of your value. The other thing is, it obviously helps someone else who might be in a similar boat. Or it might help one of those young women who maybe lost a great female leader during this pandemic, who could really use a mentor in a particular area. And lastly, you'll learn something. I have never coached or mentored someone or consulted for an organization without learning something from them, just like they learned from me. And so if you do consider this to be one of the options that you're thinking about doing out of this top 10 list, then I will highly encourage you to send me an email, and I can happily suggest some techniques that you can use as a mentor, or you can obviously search for some resources online. But this is probably one of my favorite, which is why it's towards the top of the list. And number 2 on our list is to research or write a business plan for a business you might start. Now, some of you have emailed me in advance and said, there's no way I want to start a business. I just want to pick a career path. I'm looking, but let me tell you why this could be valuable to you. If you go through the exercise of thinking about the type of business you would start if you had to start one, or if you had to create a business, you'll actually start connecting to areas of your passion. You'll remind yourself of the things that matter most to you, something that you'd be passionate enough to go out and hang your own shingle and start the business for. And so when people are trying to find their rhythm and what the steps should be in their career path to finding a purpose in their career or a passion-filled career, this is an exercise that not only helps you manage the moment, but it's going to teach you many things about yourself. Who knows? You might end up starting the business. You might not, but the exercise alone is worth doing. And that, of course, brings us to the number one thing on the top 10 list, which is come to the rest of the sessions. You had to know this was coming, and I know that this is a shameless plug, but it's also a great segue into me being able to tell you a little bit more about what all of these sessions are going to hold. Share my screen one more time. Okay. All right, so this is a great opportunity for us to talk about the rest of the sessions. So I am going to take us through these, but principally in the next 15 to 20 minutes, we're probably going to go about 5 minutes over. And then I do want to let everyone know I am going to unmute you towards the end of this, or we can take questions over chat. And I will stay on through about 8 o'clock in case there's other questions that I can be answering for you. But I want to highlight each of these speakers and what each of these sessions is going to be about, so that each of you can make the decision about whether that session is meaningful to you, but we do hope that you'll try to attend all of them. The other big thing I want to tell you right now is that please share this with your network. And the reason I say that is because you never know who might find a resource useful. The other thing, and you'll hear this from Michelle later on in the networking session, is that when you share resources like this, you'd be amazed at who will share what you've shared and how you will automatically start to enhance and improve your network because you've offered a free resource to other people. So encourage you highly to share this with other people so that they have the opportunity to join along as well. So we're going to talk about Susanna Fier, who is our next session next week, Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern. She's from Susanna Fier Consulting. But when I met Susanna, we were both working in human health, and we were actually literally sitting across the table from one another in the midst of brokering about a $350 million hospital affiliation deal. What I got to know about Susanna through that journey is that she is a bold, assertive communicator that still helps people feel comfortable with that style of communication. So she has this amazing dynamic in communicating value and in articulating a message. And so right now, as you're thinking about, perhaps you didn't apply for that job, perhaps you lost your job, perhaps you're thinking about what your job can look like moving forward. Perhaps you're later in your career and you want to explore how you can articulate your value. Susanna is going to go over communication tips and techniques that will allow for you to feel confident in how you communicate, what your value is, why you've made that decision. I think about all the women who have left the workforce to stay home and school their children. They're going to need a really powerful message when they go back to the workforce and talk about why that mattered to them and how that makes them an amazing leader. Just because we make a choice today that may not feel like one we planned for does not mean it hinders our value as a professional. And so Susanna's going to help us think about how to communicate that. The next session in this Managing the Moment first segment of the series is by Kimberly Richmond, who is a registered mental health counselor intern. Don't be fooled by the word intern. It's part of the licensing that takes shape here in the state of Florida. She also happens to live in Florida like I do. But she's going to be talking about how do you adapt your mental health approach for right now. One of the challenges that we face when we're going through a lot of change is that the typical techniques and tactics that we've used in the past may not work for us anymore, or maybe there are new stressors that we need to adapt to and to manage. And so Kim is going to take us in an interview style through a series of techniques and things that you can think about, ways that you can manage the moment by seizing control of your scenario, feeling empowered, and managing your mental health so you can feel productive in moving forward in your career path. If we don't take care of our mental health, we will be less successful as professional women. And so it's a really valuable session. And of course, it comes right before the height of the holidays. And so what would be a better time? There's no better time than to think about mental health, from my perspective, than before the holidays. So the second segment that we've got, another thing I want to remind you that when you RSVP for sessions, if you haven't already, there is a place for you to enter questions for each of the speakers, but also you can send them to connect@orianasolutions.net, or of course put them in the chat for tonight. If I can answer them tonight, great. or we will make sure they get covered by the speaker for that session. So right after the new year, we'll come back together in a segment of the series that's all about making the most of the transition. And what I mean by that is just because you might have certain circumstances at play right now does not mean you can't make this time highly productive for where you want to go in the future. And so we've got 3 sessions that are designed for that purpose, so you can make the most of the time that you have. And even if you are working right now, one of the things that you can do is if you're working from home and you've got that time that's carved out for yourself, I know that might be a joke for some of you, especially if you have young children, but if you're able to carve out that time for yourself, these are the things that you can work on during that time. So when you do re-enter the workforce or you apply for that next level up role, you go back to the office place, you will have taken some of this time to your own advantage professionally. The first of those sessions is by Amy Nichols, who's a vice president at the Humane Society of the United States, but she's also what we call a serial entrepreneur. She has started multiple businesses following her passion. She's franchised those businesses and sold some of them off. And so Amy is really great at giving you tips and tricks on how to connect to your passion to make a meaningful career. And so she'll give you some exercises along the way that will help you navigate that scenario, like some of the books that I suggested to you. But she'll help you think through that. So as you are moving forward in your career, the roles that you're pursuing will really connect to what you would like to do, the purpose that you feel, the passion that you feel, so you have a meaningful professional existence. The second part of that segment is by Michelle Talwani. She's the Director of Community Relations at the New Hampshire Community Loan Fund. I've known Michelle for the better part of 20 years. She, like Susanna Fier, comes from the state of New Hampshire, and she is probably the best networker or relationship builder that I've ever met. And I've met a lot of people in my career. She's done it for the purposes of fundraising. She's done it for the purposes of broaching policy and advocacy needs. But Michelle is going to help you think about your network differently. She's going to help you navigate on LinkedIn how you can expand your network, how you can look for what we call blind spots in your networking, and how you can use tools to your advantage. So if you've already set forth what your passion is, the direction that you want, how you can amplify your network and then leverage it in those relationships for the benefit of the career that you really want. And so it's a session that you're not going to want to miss for sure, especially if you're in the position where you're applying for jobs, because it will certainly help you to be better connected through your network. And then we'll move on to a segment by Mercedes Gorman that's all focused on technology. I'll let you know if you're advanced or really tech savvy, this might not be the session for you, but Mercedes works in the field of libraries, and she's actually the lead researcher for us at Oriana Solutions, but she's passionate about connecting people to information. And so what she's going to take you through are some tips of the trade on some of the most typical software platforms and applications that we use in the technology field. I will certainly be going to her to figure out why we can't get our poll everywhere to work for us tonight. But she's going to help you think about some of those tools and how to use them. And so if you have questions, we're going to create a lot of time for and unmute you completely for a lot of questions and answers about technology in that session. So about half of that session will be designed to answer your questions. But she's also going to turn you on to some free resources that exist. So for example, if you want to build a professional portfolio outside of LinkedIn, what website platform is free and easy to learn and to use? Or if you want to edit some photos to make sure your professional headshot looks amazing, what kind of photo software can you use? So she's going to take us through all of that and help us figure out where we're going to find some of those free resources. So Mercedes, I've had the benefit of knowing for basically all of her life, and have really been proud to watch her career blossom. And I think you're going to find great insights in some of the technology tools she can bring to you. And that's going to bring us to the last 4 sessions of our series. And this is really about moving forward. So we're currently in the managing the moment part of the series. Then we move into making the most of this transitional time for yourself. And at the end, we're going to be all about moving forward. How do we package you up as a professional so you can put your best foot forward as you apply for roles or you seek out that job opportunity or you start that business or whatever it might be for you. And we're going to lead off that portion of the series with a session by Ellen Kelbert all about your professional brand. So we talked about a book a little while ago, but this is a session where she's actually going to help you think about your resume, think about what to put in your LinkedIn profile. So you're putting forth a professional brand and the package of who you are in the best way possible. So Ellen, I have to be honest with you, is someone that I've been working with over the past year. When I decided to start my business, I needed somebody I could bounce ideas off of. And so even though I've been an executive for over 20 years and I've started my own business during the pandemic, we all need someone that we can speak with. And so I can personally attest to what Ellen can help you with in this particular segment of the series. Then we'll move into a segment by Caitlin Gerls, who is a career coach, and she's one of the owners of Career Productions. And this segment sometimes feels like it doesn't make sense for everyone, but I'm going to tell you why it could be really valuable to you. She's going to help debunk myths and some of the common misperceptions that we have about recruiters and search firms. So when you think about applying for a job, if you're applying into a big company, there's undoubtedly a human resource professional, typically called a recruiter or someone in talent acquisition, who's fielding all of those resumes. Sometimes you might have a call with a recruiter and you feel like with the term recruiter that they're in your camp, but they actually work for the hiring agency or the hiring company. And so we don't often understand as professionals the best way to take advantage and leverage recruiters and search firms for the benefit of the career that we want. So she's going to help everyone on their journey of understanding how do you pursue the career you want using search firms and recruiters, and how to understand when there might be roadblocks or concerns in the road in working with a particular recruiter for the career that you choose. Melissa Pratt is going to lead us through a session all about personal style and confidence. And when I was thinking about, well, how do we package ourselves, and really looking for a speaker that could exemplify and exude confidence and personal style, Melissa was the first one that came to mind. And what she's going to do is take you through an engaging session that is all about how, and I know it sounds silly, but how you appear. And the reason that becomes important is because when we feel good about ourselves when we're putting our best foot forward. And so that doesn't mean you have to have the fanciest or most expensive clothing or your own personal makeup artist. We want you to be you when you put yourself forward. But in this session, she's going to help you think about what is your personal style and how do you package that in a way that allows you to feel confident when you step in the room in the interview process. Or she will also cover how do you look good in a Zoom interview, because so many of those are happening in the webinar format or the virtual format right now. She will have a makeup artist as part of that. She will have some fashion consultants. And she's going to talk about every budget size and all types of body styles and identifications. So we really want you to feel comfortable coming to that session, but understand why it could be valuable to you. And then of course that brings us, and we're almost done with this, and then we'll just have one quick wrap up that we'll share. But the last session is I'll be coming back to you. I promise I won't be speaking as quickly, but we had so much to cover tonight, where I'm going to talk to you about living as a leader and loving it. Whether you're currently employed, you're underemployed, you're unemployed, whatever your current dynamic is, what we expect of leaders right now is changing. And what does it look like to be a leader in the virtual environment? What will it be like when we re-enter the office environment physically? And how do you hone your skills as a leader and find a rhythm for you as a leader at every level? And so leadership is not about title, and we'll talk quite a bit about that in this session. And I want to help you feel like you can be a leader throughout the course of your career path, regardless of what your title is. So I'm looking forward to closing out the series with all of you. You'll get to see me throughout every session, as I'll be moderating all of the other speaker sessions. But we're so excited to have you with us and joining us as part of your journey. We're happy to be part of it with you. So I want to thank you for investing in yourself. All of these speakers have volunteered their time because we want to be part of this journey with you. But really, it takes you taking that first step of investing in yourself and making the decision that you want to pursue continual advancement and learning in your career. So kudos to you for doing that, and thank you for making that investment in yourself. But the second thing is, no matter what your current circumstance is, it does not define who you are or what your future looks like. And so I want to share this quick example with you. This is a red stapler. As you can see, it's actually quite a nice stapler, if you've ever seen a true red stapler. But those of you who've seen the movie Office Space, if you haven't seen it, I don't necessarily recommend seeing it, but it's a spoof on corporate America and cubicle living and that kind of thing. But there's a character in the movie called Milton. And Milton is the guy that unfortunately gets moved. His poor office gets relocated multiple times. He ends up in the basement. And so things aren't really going well for Milton in his journey in this movie. And he has this red stapler and he loves his red stapler. And he gets very connected to the red stapler, so much so that it becomes part of his identity. He focuses all of his ire at that red stapler. When the red stapler is missing, his whole world turns upside down. But the reason I use this as an example for you is because whatever your circumstances are, they don't define who you are. And so I want you to think about the red stapler every time you face a challenge in this journey, and to make sure that you're not closing your mind and focusing only on the negative moment or the circumstance that's influencing or affecting you right now. Because if we only focus on the red stapler, we lose sight of the world of opportunities and possibilities that exist when we make productive, deliberate decisions in managing the moment. So if you have that moment, think of Milton, think of the red stapler, put the red stapler physically aside so that you are really seizing every opportunity that comes to you, and you're finding a way to be positive and productive in your journey, and using some of the techniques and the tactics that we talked about in our top 10 list to manage the moment as well as the upcoming sessions. So with that, I'm just going to say thank you and see if we have any questions for anyone. I know some of you may have had to jump off, but
no questions, but quite a few awesome suggestions and recommendations for what they're looking for.
Excellent, great. Well, if there's anything else that we can do to be helpful to you in this journey, again, happy to take conversations offline, happy to share information with you about professional women's organizations, also happy to help you think about mentoring another professional. Whatever of those top 10 lists that you might be looking to do, we're happy to help support you in that. We also are happy to take your questions and feed them to the speakers for the upcoming sessions. So whatever we can do to be part of your journey over the next several months and beyond, potentially for Women Wine Wednesdays, we're here for you. Thank you so much.